He decided, or at least told me, that everything was going to be different and that he really does want to recommit and change things.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You already know what time it is, baby. We're here to talk to you guys about Married at First Sight. Here we're going to talk to you guys about Mindy and Zach. Yes, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for the notification of the uploads. And for those of you returnees, you ain't got the minerals. You ain't got the minerals. You ain't got the minerals, baby. Anyway, listen, a giggy, are you money? Let's get into the video. So we're talking to you guys about Zach and Mindy, and we're coming to a conclusion head. Zach is a liar. And yes, I mean, we've got two liars in this episode, this series. A bit of a strange one here. I'm not sure if they did the proper vetting and check this year, but we have Zach and both Michael being stone cold liars. Now, what with Zach's one is a bit more interesting because he has a he just never ever rescinds that he made a mistake. You know, he is almost we call that classic narcissistic. Is unable to even identify or accept wrongdoing. You know, whenever he's challenged, he has a roundabout answer to kind of give you a bit of a spin. And you know, I guess he's on the show to make himself look good, to promote his brand, because he's not on here for love. But we were warned of this. When he started, the friends said he doesn't give much emotional responses. And that's why the friends were a little bit scared when he was on the show in the first place. They gave us warning. Good, sufficient warning. All the people that had a problem, they gave us sufficient warning. Even Michael. Michael's one was probably after the wedding though. But with Brandon and Zach, there was sufficient warning on the wedding day. But hey, it is what it is. So, I kind of want to start, start from the very beginning. So we get Mindy talking to her friends and talking to her female friends. And like you normally do, you're trying to explain a situation to your friends. Now, you know when it's always tough when the person does a little, so guys, like, you know, it's...
Me any reason to stay? Like, a part of me feels like I have to see that through.
There's pauses in there, there's stops in the in your speech. You know, the head goes down, and then, you know, something that she did which was quite interesting. She took a deep breath before she then released the information out. And I think when she took that deep breath to release that information out, it was what the friends did that was very interesting. So when she took the deep breath and announced her situation with Zach, the friends' faces were all showing what they really felt. So very first one, the girl in the blue was fed up. The girl that was the Asian girl, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but she had a face that was fed up. She was tired of hearing this because she had been spotting Zach from early. If you watched the series beforehand, she had been saying from the day dot she doesn't like something about Zach. It's not authentic, it's not genuine. The girl in a jean jacket, her eyes went really small and she started scrutinizing Mindy as she was talking, because what she's doing is that she's scrutinizing the information. And then the girl in a tank top, who's always been against Zach the moment she met him, you know, she saw straight away and scrunched up her face. And I think their reactions told a full story to Mindy, which is, this shouldn't be going on. And oftentimes we have great friendships that really do tell us the truth. And sometimes it's hard to listen to them because we have our own version of truth. You're not there, you don't see him every day, you don't know what it's like. But oftentimes our friends have a good vantage point as to why they don't like a particular person. And it's not always true, it's not always correct. But if you've got friends who genuinely love you and genuinely care for you, then they can be trusted with their opinions. Same with a parent. If a parent truly loves you and cares for you, you can be trusted for their actual opinion. Yeah? So that was very interesting. I think the original kind of opening line, you know, and the reason why, I mean, I think Mindy took so long was that it's an embarrassing situation to be in. Let's be honest, yeah? To have to explain that, you know, you've took this situation on, and the guy that you're meant to be doing it with also didn't take the exact same journey as you. So, yes, you got married, and then he's been treating you a certain way, and then doesn't want to even live with you. Like, the actual experiment is to get married, to live with a person, and then make a decision at the end of the day. But he hasn't done that. In fact, he's made so many excuses, which I don't even know of one. There was not even one good excuse. Not even one good excuse. There wasn't even one excuse. There was a lot of rambling, which we never heard what the actual excuse was as to why he's not staying there. Apart from the fact that, you know what, this attraction's going to grow. I don't know. You know, he's been doing the bare minimum from time back. And the friend in the tank top exposed him for that. She said he's been doing that, Zach's been doing the bare minimum, and you know, just to get by.
It seems like everything that he is doing, he is just giving you barely enough.
Over the past few days, things have been completely different.
Right, but he's not a different person. He's putting on a different face.
Okay, let's just look at the past few days since the recommitment. He spent the night last night.
So doesn't look like a bad guy. But this guy is showing his true colors because he's not taking this experiment seriously all the way. It's interesting as well because obviously Mindy, you know, reason for actual staying. I mean, it happens to all of us. You know, one of the reasons that Mindy was actually staying is because, look, when she started this journey, her parents were not supportive. They weren't there. They weren't at the wedding. It was a twin sister. It was a sister that was there. And so you don't want to go back to your parents saying you failed, right? Because it's one of the things that, as human nature, we don't have to go and tell somebody we failed. We wanted to prove them right. We wanted to prove them wrong so much. Because honestly, we felt that we were doing the right thing at the right time. But it takes a great person, a big person, to surrender that pride and go and tell somebody that. Especially if you feel like if you go and tell them that, they will tell you, I told you so. Nobody wants to hear that. Do you know what I mean? So that was one of the reasons why I believe that she stayed as long as she did. I think also as well, she needed to, and she said it as well, she needed to exhaust all the options that were at her disposal. Because I was even thinking, when she spoke to Dr. V episodes before, I really thought, why did Mindy stay? What was the point? Like, there was nothing left to stay with. But she tried again. I mean, it's like, for a person like her, and I think many people like her as well, it's about proving that, you know what, that these things do happen. Yes, people can get it wrong and stuff like that. But do you know what? It's so that you don't express any regret at the end. I did everything I could do to make this work. And this is why oftentimes people are in relationships longer than they should do. They want to explore every single scenario that they could have, so that there is no, at the end, I wish I did this or I wish I did that. Maybe I should have done this. You know, in the end, anyway, you've exhausted you can't exhaust all options more time. And when you do exhaust most options anyway, there will be more options later on down the line. You say, oh, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. The whole point is this: once your principles have crossed the line, once the line has been crossed, you did it, because your principles are what keeps you alive. You know, oftentimes when we break our principles, that's when we usually die. Now, when I'm talking about principles, I'm not talking about little things like, you know, this thing that is minuscule, but we're talking about principles like truth, honesty, respect, them kind of things there. Things that are tied into that. Then it's you gotta, like, if you say that first date for you means it's a show of respect of your womanhood or whatever, I can work with it. I mean, I ain't gonna work with that, but I work with it. Do you know what I mean? And I get it. It's your principle, and so you stick with it because it causes this, that. You understand? And you got to know when to cancel you got to know when to break your principle, because there are times when you need to, because sometimes we hold some illegitimate, uneducated principles, which as we grow we start to realize, okay, I can't hold that as a principle. Yeah. And sometimes the third option, reason why some people stay in relationships longer than they should do, is because the reward seems greater than the risk. And at that time, you know, the risk was seemingly great, but the reward seemed greater. She could acquire such a handsome, good-looking man, probably to herself, and you know, he's got great qualities and stuff like that. She wanted this to work, yeah. And if she had caught the big fish, she'd have been so grateful. But she didn't catch the big fish. She hooked it, and it got away again. And so sometimes the risk, the reward can be outweighing the risk, and so therefore sometimes we stick in things longer than we actually need to. And I felt that's what Mindy was in a particular situation. When she told obviously her friends that she recommitted, it was interesting as well, because, you know, when she told them, you know, she announced obviously the fact that the reason why she did it is because obviously she had certain principles in place, certain stipulations in place that had to be met in order to progress the relationship. And you know, it was interesting because the way she defends Zach always, you know, she. And not only just that, but her softness in negotiation. When she was discussing this with Zach originally, I felt that she was too soft anyway, when she was sitting down with him in the last episode. And so when you're now coming to deliver the information to your friends to say, you know, I've made these stipulations.
No, he did not move.
But wasn't the move in one of your non-negotiables?
Yes.
What were the other three?
Honesty and transparency moving forward. Spending time off camera with
there, and you're behaving like you're strong, when really you couldn't deliver it strong. More than likely, you're probably gonna you know, capsize on your own, you know, your own lines that you've produced, or your own kind of principles that you've laid down as a reason as to why you're going to stay in a relationship. In most cases, we now know that obviously she decided to go right through it and actually cancel it. Don't get it twisted. A lot of people don't. They say it to the face of the individual, but when it gets their friends, they say it a different way. And then in the end, what happens is, because they don't want to lose face, they end up breaking their own principle. And you know, one thing I always say as well is this: the way that she is, you can't change who you are. Your nature is your nature, and when you're a genuine, kind, individual person, people do take advantage of that. But that is your nature. You can't go outside of that, because that's how God created you to be. And so oftentimes when some nice people, when they meet bad people, they try to change their behavior, and actually what happens is they become worse than the bad person, because now they are struggling and swimming in an identity that they do not actually withhold, and so that makes them act or falsely act in that scenario, becoming an actor in that characterization, and actually they do worse than somebody who was actually a bad person, who's genuinely a bad person, because like I said, they're acting in it. And then often there becomes this conflict also within the individual as well, which means that they're now becoming indecisive with their actions, because sometimes they can get stuck in between two identities. Am I the bad person? Am I the good person? If you're a good person, natured person, and that's you, stick to it. The right person will come. There are pricks out there, don't get it twisted. But stick to being that good person, because the right person will come, and it causes confusion in you in the long run when you try to behave a different way to what you truly are.
He's making a lot of efforts to see me every day.
It's interesting because obviously, you know, Mindy has done it several times. I've seen now. She defends Zach's position. And like, in all honesty, I get it, because you're a partner, that's your husband, as she keeps saying. But there are times where I think you've got to be truthfully honest with yourself and just say, look, this is not how a relationship should be. And you can, you know, the Bible says love covers a multitude of sin. Yeah, so yes, we understand that covering the individual. And I'm one of those persons that like to cover somebody. Like, if they've done something wrong, I will cover you. But there comes a point, just like I said about the Michael Mecca situation, his sister, you can't defend certain actions. You have to not defend it, because otherwise it causes so much problem. Because you're not being open and honest with yourself, and you're getting hurt. Like she was saying, obviously she's seen that he's done a lot already. He ain't done nothing. Nothing's changed, bro. He said, you know, he's changed some things in recent weeks. Bruv, nothing's really changed. What, he comes over the house a bit. Yeah, he stayed in the spare room when you were almost crying. That's changed. Nothing's really changed. The progression should have been monumental by now. You know, he should have moved into the house. You know, he should have been able to move in the house, but he hasn't done it. You know, always he kept on saying, you know, I'm thinking about it. He's not thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. So yeah, for me, when I saw that, I was like, she's always consistently trying to defend him, and with that, you know, it just causes her more heartache and pain. And the friends are probably watching it thinking, what's going on here? Like, why is she always defending him? Why is she always like trying to make sure that, you know, she covers his back? And there's no need to. And it's interesting as well, because when she explains about the situation with Lindsay, and says obviously, you know, that Zach was accusing her, and this is why I said it's manipulation from Zach. He knew exactly the information he got from Lindsay, and he knew, fam, like, it wasn't a big deal. He could have come and asked her. He could have asked Mindy, but instead, what he did was he used it as a weapon, yeah, to bludgeon, you know, Mindy, so that she couldn't react, or she couldn't feel a certain way about him moving mad, yeah? And so a lot of guys who are manipulators, who are cheaters, who are serial cheats and that, abusers, often use these tactics where they gaslight you and actually project what they're feeling onto you. So now when she's been accused of the fact that, you know, this Lindsay secret, this secret about her ex-boyfriend wants to pick her up, she actually denied the ex-boyfriend.
Ex wanted to pick me up from the airport. I said, hell no. That, of course, did not happen. My best friend Shani drove me home, got me right away.
So, and then for Lindsay also as well to misreport the information, or even take that information to Zach. What was her thinking? Why was her loyalty with Zach to tell him? Was she trying to get into bed with him? Like, what was the niche? What was the reason? You know, what was the reason for her doing that? There was no need. Unless she wanted something. You know, and I guess obviously jealousy is a very horrible thing, but your friends sometimes aren't always your friends. And you know, that betrayal, it started with Judas, man. We see that in the Bible. Judas, that kind of original traitor where, you know, you betray your best friend. Somebody who's been with your side, walked by you, talked with you, celebrated you, and you just tossed them aside. God damn. What's also interesting as well is the fact that Zach also defended Lindsay. And I'm confused as to why, what kind of relationship do they have that he was defending Lindsay? I mean, I don't know. Were they having an inappropriate relationship? I don't know. Maybe that she just brought that information to him and he thought to himself, you know what, he can use it as a way to instigate. But I don't understand the reasoning behind him defending Lindsay at all. Unless they're having some type of inappropriate relationship, or he just felt like, if I've got this information, I need to cover my source rather than exposing her. Because obviously he knew that they were friends. It's just interesting that he never told Mindy this. And I think it's because he was always going to use it against her. He was always going to use it as a weapon against her. That's the reason why. And also as well, men do this as well, where they use information as a safety exit. Because look, his whole thing is to exit this relationship safely with a reputation that doesn't look bad. I need something that's going to give me that reason to exit without looking like a prick. And so this gold mine that he fed upon from Lindsay actually gave him the impetus to be able to do that. You know, to say, oh, the reason why I've not been behaving well is because of such and such. But you've been behaving like that for a very long time, sir. From the very, very beginning, before you exited. So that Panama nonsense, everything like that, you've been behaving like that before. That's nothing new. But he wanted to use it as a way, as a safety exit. So be careful, ladies. Man, don't do this, you know. Like when they have an argument with you, they have an argument with you so they can exit relationships.
But I'm not exhausted and miserable. I'm exhausted and happy. The effort and the turnaround definitely feels worth it for me.
And then, so obviously to the house, I think something really interesting. I think a lot of times, sometimes I say these things, and even me, I'm like, bro, is that happening? And because I've been around certain guys and watched their behavior, I know a master of manipulator when I see one. So I'm gonna just pinpoint some things. Zach's very clever, very smart. Now he probably had this speech preordained and prearranged already to keep her sweet. But also, I also believe as well that he's very, very, very observatory when it comes to situations. So when he came in, you know, her normal reaction, she didn't really give him a great hi. She did hi to the dog, but not to Zach. Now, you have to bear in mind, the last few episodes before that, she's been excited to see him. She's got out of the chair, she's got the wine bottles popping, everything like that, ready and bearing to go. Now, when you don't get that reaction, remember, you know you're playing. So you know instantly, I've got to make sure I keep this sweet. So when he doesn't get that early reaction from her getting up, I think he started plotting from then. I've got to make sure I hit her with something, la-di-di-di-da. Because these guys are very observatory. They observe movements. They watch for patterns. When the patterns change, they instantly have a game plan ready. And so then he came with the whole, you know, it feels it worth it for me. You know, we've seen the change. I've seen growth. You know, it's been nice, you know, talking to you. Things have been different of late, blah, 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 blah. But one thing I always notice about him is his language. His language is very, very selfish. He always talks about it feels good for me, for me, for me, for me. And that is something that is so self-inclusive that you have to think to yourself, is it narcissistic, or is it self-indulgent? Or he's actually spinning out what he really feels towards you, and you're not picking up the signs. And so it was interesting because before he gave that speech, he did something again, shift of body. You see that his body language shifts towards her. He gets out of his seat and turns his body now to face her directly, and then begins to launch his speech towards her. Now that turn of the body and the front facing again just kind of gives it validity that what I'm saying is truthful. It's honest. I'm being authentic with you. My genuine, yeah. And so obviously he was saying, you know, he was trying to show his authentic self. I'm being me. I'm being real. I'm being open. I'm being into this. Really, he's not. He's just acting. He knows how to feign that particular body language, and that's all he was doing. And why I say that, because when obviously Mindy discussed and said, listen, I don't actually agree with that particular toast, and good on her for doing that, because that's hard. You know, he then sat back into his seat, crossed his leg over, you know, kept his perfect hair as always, and again, gave no emotion. You know, and it's very interesting because the only times we see real much emotion from him is when he's talking. and you know, when he wants to try and pull the wool over your eyes. And so for me, it's a very interesting behavior to see that from him. And you know, him obviously sitting back, he wasn't just sitting back, he actually created more distance between himself and Mindy, because the moment he began to speak, he came forward and sat face to face, almost like, and it created a bit more intimacy. The moment that obviously she said she doesn't agree, he sat back. He don't care. He sat back. He does not care, blood. You're just another cog in the wheel, fam. You know, he sat back and created more distance between them. Because actually he's not retracted to her, he's repulsed. And that's the truth. I call him the master manipulator. What also happened as well is that, you know, the dog that he has as well came over to play just at that same time as well. And when that happens, when someone's talking about a serious issue, it just creates distraction. It just shows that you're not really listening. But it's not the first time this has happened. It's the second time, because we saw that also in the forest. And when she was talking, trying to have a discussion with him, suddenly the dog went off and he ran off on one, and they didn't finish their conversation. So he's always used to that, not finishing off the conversation, going round in conversations, not giving the honest, truthful feelings in relationships. Like, this is normal for him. This is nothing out of the blue. This is normal for him. And so that's where we're seeing these unfortunate situations where he's showing his truest colours towards her. And you know, he was just nonchalant towards her point in tow. And that just shows you that person doesn't really care about you. You know, when you see that kind of behavior, a person does not care. And you know, and then for him to say, you know, he doesn't have much to say, of course you don't. When do you ever have something to say when it's actually an appropriate situation, and just tell the truth? You go round in circles with Pastor Cal, you go round in circles with Dr. Viviana, you go round in circles with Mindy. This is the one time that I'm actually shocked you haven't got nothing to say. And I think the reason why is because you've got nothing to add that isn't going to be a lie, that you haven't been caught out with already. And when she brought that up as well about the Lynn situation, saying obviously you lied basically, you know, and she put him on heat, you know, he wasn't ready for that, you know, because and the thing is, he views Mindy, and there's a lot of times what men view sometimes women as these easy prey, you know, because they are predators. And so unfortunately, sometimes women get used in a very, just a nasty way, because a lot of these men themselves are not happy with themselves. They're used to getting their own way, and unfortunately they're inherently selfish. But what was interesting was actually when he had a conversation one-to-one with Dr. Viviana. And the reason why I say that is because of the way that Dr. Viviana reacted with Mindy in comparison with the way she acted with Zach. Because her face with Mindy, she looks up at Mindy and she's like got endearing large eyes, trying to endear herself to Mindy. And then she begins to smile because she's happy hearing that Mindy's standing up for herself. You know, you've got some balls about you. Yeah, you stood strong and you're showing them what it is. Yeah, and I'm happy about that. You see that body language from her, and she didn't need to say much. It was actually her face that showed us what a delight she felt about Mindy in doing what she done.
Okay, before my smile gets too big, how do you feel about that?
I feel like I don't have any doubts about this. I know.
And so that was very, very interesting. In comparison to when she's talking to Zach, her immediate response was head tilted down, and you see that her eyes are more focused, more drilled in. Everything she's hearing, she's reacting to. At one point, she's reacting and she's like, what? She doesn't say it, but she reacts to it. She's like, oh, I think it was when Zach said, obviously, we talk every day, and her face reacted almost to say, listen, stop bullcrapping me. Like, I know the truth. And in the end, she said, listen, Zach, why didn't you just tell me the truth? Like, you guys broke up. And Zach's like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's what happened. And it's again just showing Zach's inability to really be in the reality. I think it's really scary for someone to be like that. But you know, oftentimes guys are like that because you know something deep has happened and they are unable to articulate how they feel or what's going on in their mind, and that causes them to act outwardly rather than actually intrinsically looking within to find out the problem. You know, and then she called him out, Dr. V, by saying, listen, why didn't you you were lying, basically. So why didn't you tell me you were lying? And I think it's quite interesting because, you know, the fact that he doesn't admit that he lied, he basically says he weren't lying. He omitted the information but wasn't lying. And she has to press it again like, no, bro, you were lying. You know, these are the kind of people we want to avoid in lifetimes. Guys, listen, look. Any person you encounter like this, it's not a friend you need to be around. It's not a lover you need to be around. You can't save them, yeah? Take them to a therapist, let them deal with a therapist. You can't save them. Because when you do try to save them, you are going to end up hurt. You're going to end up in tears. You're going to end up crying. You understand? So, guys, I want to end it there and say, listen, look. Hey, I mean, Mindy's done a great job. You know, she tried very hard. But in the end, it didn't work out. So, I want to say this, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Click on that bell button for the notification of the uploads, alright? Hey, and if you like what we do, man, make sure, man, you share it with somebody else, man. A gege. And you're Maddie Lane.